Welcome to another edition of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, I'm privileged to have a very eminent academician who achieved a lot in academics, Dr. Sanjeev Bansal. Dr. Bansal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much, and it's a profound privilege that you considered me to be here. But if you permit me to say, achieved. So I am totally on the learning curve, and actually I have not done anything.
Thank you. So, Dr. Bansal is the Dean FMS and the Director of the Amity Business School. He's an avid researcher with more than 208 research papers published. He's authored 42 books. He's a recipient of the Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan Lifetime Achievement National Award. And of course, he's been awarded and recognized several times. So, Dr. Bansal, what would you say are three key milestones in your career or your life?
All right. If you say milestones, or you can say that the things which made me feel happy. The first thing is definitely award of PhD. I belong to a business family, and my father was the Reverend, and he came to Delhi, leaving his father's business and everything. And he was avid learner. He was a very well-read person, and but in my family there was no person who was a PhD. So award of PhD was one thing which made me happy, and it basically gave a lot of inspiration to all my younger cousins and family members also. Then I'm a strong believer, and I always believe whatever he does is only for good, but for good reason. My first son came after 10 years of our marriage. So birth of my first son, I have two sons now. So birth of my first son was another thing which I would like to mention, which was a milestone in my life. I am teaching for last 31 years, and started with the University of Delhi, and I was number of institutions I taught in parallel and so on. But joining Amity is one thing which it has changed my way of thinking and my life also. Okay. So these are the three milestones I feel.
Wonderful. So let's talk about education in India. We'll first talk about management education. When I did my MBA in 79, there were very few chosen institutes, not such major competition to get into different major management schools. Today, it's changed completely. As you look back, what would you say is the pattern of evolution of management education in our country?
Sir, with due respect, if you, just go to the history of management education, 1881. So Wharton was the first institution, Wharton, University of Pennsylvania. So Mr. Joseph Wharton started this institution, and it was actually it was a school of economics where he started from. But right. He himself was an entrepreneur, and ultimately then he converted into a business school. In India, business education was slightly delayed. We started in the late 40s, so with XLRI, and then Kolkata, and so in Delhi it came in late 60s, 70s. So if you see evolving of management education, if you permit me, honestly, I'm a 67 born, and first time I came across this word MBA was in 75 when I was watching a movie called Trishul. The gentleman came hugging to his brother, and he told him that he had done an MBA. But till my college time and very few people were knowing about management education.
Correct.
There were very few people who were actually knowing the value of management education. There were, but after 90s, 1991, 92, after Dr. Manmohan Singh's all these reforms, Mr. Narasimha Rao's these education reforms, and then the private sector started coming into the education. Though we were having, but before that we were having all these, all these private colleges running engineering mainly, and from every part of the world we used to go to do engineering in southern part of, all these Matka states, we call it Maharashtra, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, and so on.
Right.
But management education was not as popular. After 90s there was basically something where management education took a wheel. And like Amity also we started in 1995. It was the first school which I had. This is the first
Mhm.
school of this entire group
Mhm.
from where we started the journey from. Initially, when I was like going to teach in many business schools, the pattern of education was different. People who used to, who used to be aware of the term MBA or management education, they used to only join.
Mhm.
But of lately, when it became popularized, the things have changed. Very sadly, but plenty of people ask their wards to join this program because they feel that ROI is better in this field. You will be surprised that most of number of times when I'm basically asking people to ask me questions about why they want their ward to be in MBA,
Mhm.
number of them are not very sure. The
Mhm.
only thing which they ask me is they do not ask me about the quality of education, the paradigms of education, the pedagogy of education. They ask me only about what kind of salaries will they be getting
Correct.
and what kind of companies they will.
Mhm.
So this is basically, the way management education getting popularized.
Mhm.
When you did your MBA, you were definitely a aware soul because you were knowing that I have to do MBA and what the value of MBA is actually.
Mhm.
But sadly, in the last decade, this paradigm has totally changed.
Mhm.
We are taking MBA as an alternate to get a job.
Mhm.
This is something which we have to actually change. This is totally, these are all my personal viewpoints.
Correct.
But I really feel bad when I ask a student that why do I, this is general question in the interview when I say, why do you want to do MBA?
Mhm.
Many of them are not able to convince me the
Mhm.
convincing reason.
Mhm.
They just give me crab things. They have done pharmaceutical thing. They have done engineering. They have done English, but they will just try to justify that they always wanted to be a management graduate,
Mhm.
but they couldn't do earlier. Now they are doing it. So
Interesting. Okay. So, a follow-up question to you on that is that again, I have asked this many times that why is it that MBA schools don't have enough research going on? Why are we not producing more PhDs like you?
actually, sir, let me just tell you. We were actually, you must be, I'm sure you're knowing about, we are having more than 44,000 institutions in India, higher
Mm,
education institutions,
mm,
and less than 1,000
mm.
are the universities,
Okay.
established universities,
Mm,
central government universities, state government universities, private universities,
mm,
and deemed to now we have, now this term is not going to be used now, deemed to, after this new education policy,
mhm,
but this number is less than 1,000. And when it comes to quality standards,
mm,
in India, we were having this, we introduced this system NAC. Now, for the last few years, we have started with NIRF ranking also.
mm,
But in management education, there were three golden accreditations. We AACSB, AMBA, and IQUIS. They used
mhm,
to be, and a school in foreign like used to have all these three accreditation. They used to call it. It's a school with the great value.
mhm.
Unfortunately, in India, these quality standards, quality parameters were slightly lesser.
Okay.
Right? In MIT, this is, we are a different kind of university. Our vision of our founder, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, is very different, very well defined.
Mhm.
And we started with accreditations long back.
Okay.
I'm very happy that now UGC is coming out with very lot of new measurements where they're asking universities to be a part of NAC, part of NIRF. But still, you will be surprised, sir, that there are only few thousand institutions who are taking participation in these surveys and these
Mm,
rankings because these are the quality yardstick. They are putting you under tremendous amount of pressure for maintaining quality
mm,
and quality standards. So quality in education. The moment you speak about quality, the first parameter is your academic quality, which includes research.
mm.
Because academic and research go in parallel only.
Right.
If you are not doing any innovation or any new research in academics, I think it's going to. For example, in this last year, we have seen how the entire world has now changed from face to face to online.
Correct. So my
The
next question to you, is that very often, we've got a whole lot of business schools, and I often wonder why don't we have business schools in the top 100 in the world? What will go? I mean, institute like Ahmedabad and Bangalore and Calcutta have been in existence for several years, 30, 40, 40 years probably. but we still don't see them in the top 100 schools. What should be done to our business schools to bring them into the top 100?
Sir, this is a very well-defined system. Accreditation, they focus on teaching quality, they focus on teaching pedagogy, they speak about intellectual capital, they speak about your research, your consultancy, your training, uh, uh, student progression, right? And a very strong measurement there is corporate interaction and your alumni database. We have very good business school. We have very good business school, number of IIMs, number of very XLRI, where they are still, I mean, like at Amity, we are in top 10 rankings by various agencies,
Sure.
and we are in NIRF's top 50 ranking also. But to maintain all these things, one thing is very sure that we have to focus on certain things very categorically. Our system should be outcome based, which is a very rare phenomena. You will be surprised that outcome based education is a very known parameter in outside the world, but in India, this parameter is not given much of value. We were the first university by WASC, Western Association of Schools and Colleges, US, who awarded us for outcome-based education. Now, outcome is where what you intend to do and you achieve it. This is outcome. If you are, I mean, there is nothing like you organize 50 guest lectures, you speak to 50 people, you do these type of classes, but effectiveness and that to measurable effectiveness is not there. So at the end of the day, everything is basically revolving around quality parameters. So to be in the top 100 schools, see, when you are countering with University of Pennsylvania, when you are speaking with Harvard, when you are speaking with Oxford, when you are speaking with good business schools, you have to definitely match the standards. Now, curriculum.
Correct.
Curriculum is very important part, Mr. Garg. Unfortunately, in number of established older universities defined systems, I will not criticize anybody, but we are not changing. Curriculum is something which should be updating on the regular basis. This is a requirement of all. And if you are not putting in the latest updations in your curriculum, you are bound to. And see, ultimately, it is for a business school. It converges to what? Employability. If your education is not converting to employability, it's not going to give you any value.
So then, tell me, Dr. Bansal, what is the restriction in changing curriculum? Is it the government? Or is it just the business schools who say that why change?
Every change is, there is only one restriction, sir, mental block, complacency.
Okay.
If you do not want to, if you are passionate about your field, you will definitely. If you feel that you have done enough, if you feel you have achieved everything, if you just run on the existing systems, then...
This is what I have often debated. I mean, I'm from Jamnalal Bajaj. At one stage, it was one of the top institutes, and then it was split into 7, etc., etc. And I keep telling people there, I said, no strong alumni association. Nobody knows who the professors are. No iconic PhDs coming out of that. How does a business school survive? And my question to you is the same thing, that what should the business schools in India do, where at least, maybe not globally, but at least start getting people from all over Asia to come and study here?
So I told you, I mean, there are very well-defined parameters in the quality standards. In every accreditation body, every Indian accreditation body, every foreign accreditation body, they are very well-defined structural system where they speak about your courses, where they speak about your programs, they speak about curriculum updation, they speak about the new methodology which you do, pedagogy they speak about the growth of intellectual capital. See, if you permit me, only two things matter most in any education system: the teachers and the students, right? So we have to see both. So when it comes to the teacher, they should be doing research, they should be involved in good consultancy, they should be involved in training programs, they should be adopting the newest systems. The same way, students should be holistic. There should be holistic development policies of the student. Co-curricular activities, extracurricular, academic, everything should go hand in hand. If these things are being taken care by. And one more difference which we have tried to cover in Amity is there is a vast difference between academia and industry. This is basically the must requirement for a business school, especially. Should have more collaboration with industry around. You should be taking industry into confidence. You should be involving industry into your academic endeavors. You should be asking them to be a part of your area advisory bodies. More of people from industry should be involved to deliver the lecture. This is not raw learning only. I mean, there should be experimental, practical learning also. So this is something which I'm sorry, but in number of government systems,
Hmm.
we are just running with the older curriculum, which is now redundant actually,
Hmm.
without
But
innovating much.
government restrictions there even for management education?
No, there is no restriction from the government. There
Okay.
cannot be any, sir.
Okay.
See, restriction or limitation may be in funding or something, but
Hmm.
survival of the fittest is the key word,
Correct.
and you have to keep on seeing the comparison. You have to see your new challenges.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you are from the management school, so we have to definitely see all these stands. We have to do this
Interesting.
SWOT.
Okay. So let's now move to some other questions. As an educator, what are some of the core values you believe in?
Sir, this is as a educator also and otherwise also. I believe one tagline which I always put in on my board is truth prevails and honesty pays.
Hmm.
This is one. No, when I speak about truth, speaking the truth, a lot of us speak about Mahatma Gandhi. I'm not an ardent fan of, or I will not justify whatever he said.
Right.
But one thing I really advocate is that speaking the truth is a very difficult phenomena.
Hmm.
As a student of decision sciences, if I ask you, plenty of friends, what are you doing? Believe you me, 99% people will not give you the right answer.
Correct.
So speaking the truth in the right spirit is basically something. So I personally feel that you should be honest about your working. You should keep on doing the thing irrespective of your result.
Hmm.
And believe you me, truth will prevail.
Hmm.
Honesty will pay you. Other in general also, spiritually also. I am, as I was discussing before the interview,
Hmm.
this is my confirmed belief that everything, whatever you do
Hmm.
in the right direction, the right spirit, is going to pay you the rich dividends.
Okay. And my next question to you is that, as someone who has led so many business schools, what would you say is your leadership style?
See, leadership is something. It's basically, if you ask me, I say, "How kare?"
Hmm.
Where I believe that competency mapping
Hmm.
and people management.
Hmm.
Now, first thing is competency mapping, where you have to actually see the strength areas and weak area of all the people whom you are basically taking into consideration,
Hmm.
and you have to allocate and allot the work as per their competency.
Hmm.
Believe you me, it is going to give you optimum results.
Hmm.
And secondly, leadership or anything cannot be possible without human involvement, human management, people management. So human values should be given utmost importance,
Interesting.
like
Okay.
without affecting the organizational requirements.
Okay.
But these things should be given
Very
importance.
interesting. So one more question for you before I move to a few questions for you personally.
So
You worked with over the last 30 years with different students, and today's age is the age of the millennials and the Gen Zs. My question to you is that how are, based on your experience and perception, how are millennials and the Gen Zs changing management education?
first thing is, sir, like when I was growing, so survival of fittest was the key. Now survival of quickest
Okay, very well said. Okay.
is the key. Actually, I reserve my comments on that, but I say when you go into the blended mode,
Hmm.
then we can see the expectation of this millennial and Gen Z also, and otherwise also.
Okay.
But otherwise, it is our education system or anything is not being changed by because of them.
Hmm.
It is something else.
Okay. Take your point. So let's move to a few questions for you personally. I think I've got time for about 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah.
My first question to you, Dr. Bansal, is on your writing.
So
You've written 42 books. My question is, what motivates you to write so much?
to be honest, sir, like one thing is as I was discussing before this interview, I'm fortunate, I'm privileged that my father was a very well-read person and he was very learned, and he was having a passion of writing. Like he used to write, I mean, full bunch of pages on a daily basis,
Hmm.
and number of things used to come to his mind, and he wrote his first book in 94-5, and it was just sheer love of his that like I was also editing that book and all.
Okay.
But I was always having a feeling that like books are the good medium to make
Mhm.
people aware.
Hmm.
So I wrote my first book in 1999. It was actually more on my academic work only.
Hmm.
We used to have people from industry also, very senior people, and they were actually worth more PhD than anything, but they were not having this prefix doctor.
Okay.
So those people were very good in communication, sharing their experiences, giving practical learning, but they were not very good in writing. Actually, writing as in like they were not too keen to write the books or research papers or something like that.
Hmm.
So what I said that let's make a policy that if a student is going for internship, then all the all the faculty guides, asked that like they should be asked to convert those industry experiences into case studies.
Hmm.
And all the students who are basically into dietitians, this is mandatory requirement for any MBA. I said ask them to make a dissertation where plagiarism should be leashed,
Hmm.
and if that research can be converted into a research paper.
Hmm.
So initially, to promote the students, to enhance the motivation of faculty member, I said let's write compilation of case studies.
Mhm.
So my few books earlier, which I guided them, was basically compilation of case studies, which we
Okay.
produced, the original work of our scholars and our faculty members.
Hmm.
But actually, the question which you have asked is very specific. So my main motivation is, number one, I write where I can motivate people, faculty. Right.
Mhm.
Secondly, in terms of spiritual books which I have written,
Hmm.
the motivation is more and more of personal, where I feel that by writing, I am actually clearing my doubts, my this thing, and I am basically making me more like the last book which I wrote is on voice. This is Voice of God.
Mhm.
This is about Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita and other things. So somebody asked me like why you wrote this book. I said the only reason is I wanted to know about Gita.
Hmm.
So at least one reader of this book would be me.
Hmm.
And in the process, if somebody else can read this book and like be benefited,
Hmm.
it will be a bonus.
Wonderful.
So
Wonderful. So I think I have time for only now one more question for you. And this is a question I'm going to ask you based on all the experience that you had, based on the success that you had, even though in the beginning of the interview, you did mention that there's much more to be done. But at your stage of life, as you look back, what does success mean to Dr. Bansal?
success is a very, sir, it's a cosmetical word. I mean, it has different meanings.
Yeah.
But I feel if you feel that if you have this internal satisfaction where you feel that yes, this is worth, then this is success. The different measurements people use, like for us, for many of people, I may be a very successful person. But if you ask me honestly, when I see success stories, when I see philanthropists, when I see really, very successful leader, I feel I haven't done anything. So success is totally internal satisfaction, where from the core of heart you feel that I have actually done something. It may be by a very, very minor deed also. It may be by if you are helping somebody and like that person smiles. At times that is also a success.
Correct.
If you ask me honestly, I wrote long back that if when I am crossing over, if at least one person in the life says that the person who is leaving has made some contribution in my life, I think that would be called success. So in one life, accept your inner core, family members, friends. If you can make wonderful addition to at least one life, I feel that would be success. So,
fantastic. That's very well said. Dr. Bansal, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you lots of success in everything that you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. And in fact, this is a profound privilege of mine that you have chosen me to be a part of this. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.